Welcome to the Whole Pack, where we challenge black and white thinking and holistic pet care and dive into the controversial topics everyone's thinking about but nobody's saying out loud. I'm Sunny Gandera.
And I'm Melissa Sherman, and we are two holistic pet health practitioners here to prove that holistic care can include critical thinking, self-care, and yes, even Western medicine when needed. This is a judgment-free community we wish we'd had when we started our journey.
Welcome back to the Whole Pack podcast. Thanks for being with us today. So I want to start with something that I see all this time, and I'm very much including my past self in this and even my current self because, I've done it for a long time and I did it for a long time and I sort of cringe a little bit when I think about it. And that is, someone will find you, maybe through Instagram or maybe through referral. Maybe they stumble onto your website at midnight because, their dog has been itching for 6 months and they're at the end of their rope. And what do they find when they get there? CHPHC, CPCN, certified in TCVM food therapy, clinical herbalism, medicinal mushroom, animal Reiki practitioner. And then the person that looks at that page is exhausted. They're just like, I have a itchy, inflamed dog and, look at that and think, I have absolutely no idea what that means. And then they leave, they click off. Not because you're not qualified, or your work isn't amazing, but because you spoke an entire language they don't understand and you answered a question they weren't asking, right? Yeah. So what they were asking was, can someone help my dog stop itching? And you give them your resume, essentially. So this is the central problem we want to dig into today because I think it's one of the most common and most fixable things that holds brilliant practitioners back from clients who really, truly need them. And I think, we need to get really specific about why we do it because I don't think it's vanity or arrogance. It's just, it comes from a really understandable place, right? So let's dive in. I'm going to dive in and then Melissa, just jump in as you see fit. But, in terms of why do we lead with our credentials? Why do we default to this? So most of us came into this industry from a place of deep personal experience, right? We watched an animal suffer. I can relate, my nacho. We felt the limitations of conventional care. We went looking for something different and we found it. And then we spent years and thousands of dollars and hours studying and certifying and training so that we could bring something real to the animals and the people we serve. And so when it comes to telling people who we are and what we do, that feels like the most natural thing in the world to lead with, that training to sort of I'm qualified, because to us, those letters after our name, those certifications we have on the wall, that's the evidence and the proof. I'm the person who can help you. That's how you can trust me. But the problem is that the person on the other side of that website, or that Instagram profile for that matter, doesn't know what, say, TCVM stand for. That's something that I practice. They don't know the difference between a certified holistic pet health coach and someone who's watched a few YouTube videos, right? I mean, all of those credentials look more or less the same to them because we are in our own world there. But that means that leading with our credentials, actually doing very little of the work we think we're doing.
Well, it's kind of that industry jargon, too, that just people get caught up in. You and I might know what we're talking about, but even within our industry, there's people that have post-nominals, which are the letters after your name or their name that you might see, where I'm like, what the heck is that? And I don't even know what it is. So, I mean, we're putting stuff out there like that. And I've been guilty of it in the past too. Here's my resume. I'm going to put it in my email signature. I'm going to put it on my Instagram. And maybe it only belongs on your website in your about page. Sure. Put your credentials there. You can brag all day long. But we're missing the point. It's almost like we're taking this. Corporations are really great at acronyms for everything. And it's really slipped into society where we have acronyms for everything.
Right.
But in little tight communities outside of that, no one knows what the hell anybody's talking about. So it's
right.
Do you want people to know what you do, or you just want them to have a list of letters? I think that's what we get caught up in, right?
Absolutely. That's putting it really brilliantly. And I think, we're speaking the language of our professional community. Those are the people who know what EFT means, or who understand the difference between classic and complex homeopathy, and gets excited about the 5-element theory. And that's a wonderful community to be in conversation with, but it's not your client. It's not who you're going to help. They're not the ones who are lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering why their dog's losing weight. So, me, I have to always bring up a book because that's who I am. But it's a really, I was doing some research on this topic, and it's a guy called Donald Miller. He wrote a book called Building a Story Brand. I think every practitioner should read at some point. Have you read it, Melissa?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the core idea is really simple, right? It's like he says that in every story, the customer is the hero, not the brand. So your job isn't to be the protagonist of the story. Your job is to be the guide, the Gandalf, the one who hands the hero, right, to the tools they need to win. And the moment you walk in, leading with your credentials and modalities, you have made yourself the center of the story, which means then what does that mean? The client has nowhere to stand or be. So, what does this all mean? So the real questions clients are asking is, they're not typing. I just want you to think about this before you start to, present what you do, is that they're not typing, find me a practitioner certified in TCVM food therapy. I'm just using that again as an example, right? They're typing, my dog won't stop itching and my vet says it's allergies, but nothing is working. So speak in their language, because that's what's going to get their attention.
Right.
They're typing, for me, for instance, maybe one of my clients will type, my dog was just diagnosed with lymphoma and I don't know what to do,
Yeah.
Those are the things that's the conversation they're having in their head. And if your website, your bio on Instagram or Facebook, and your introductory email doesn't speak directly to that, you're essentially invisible to that exact person, right, who needs you the most.
And going a little deeper on what you're saying too is, I think I'm going to give an example of, helping heal the gut microbiome. Like the average person doesn't know what that means either. So like sometimes we're talking at such an elevated level, like, yes, that might be what you're doing. You might be doing that through food or whatever you're doing. And that helps those itchy dogs, the dogs that have the chronic ear infections. But like the end result is like, they just want their dog's ear to stop being itchy. They want their dogs to, not feel that way. They don't want to know all the hows and whats. You are going to facilitate that, but you don't have to tell them all of that up front, because of course there are elevated pet guardians, right? There are people that are elevated and know exactly what you're talking about. There are people that are just looking for other options because conventional wasn't working. So if we lead with the process, that can be really overwhelming too, because that sounds scary. Like, what is a gut microbiome, right? Like, oh my gosh, I can't even go that direction because I have to learn a lot, right?
Yeah.
So being less intimidating makes you more approachable.
Yeah.
And the story brand that you're talking about, I love that. Because you really, if we all sit and think about it, we really want them to be the hero in the story. We really want them to see that they can help their animal, that their animal doesn't have to continue suffering, and to position them in a way where I have the tools to get you there is going to change. It's going to change how they see you and themselves in the story of, hope, happy ending, change, right?
Absolutely. It's tempting, right? Like I said before, you worked so hard on it and you want to just kind of share it with the world, but you have to meet people where they're at, right? So that's why this episode is called Your Clients Don't Buy Modalities. And what does that mean? It's like you are selling the transformation, right? You're not selling the tool, because people are, I don't care how you get my dog well, I just want it to get well. So the modality, as you were saying, it's the process, it's the vehicle, it's not the destination. So I was reading somewhere, there was an analogy that was like, oh my gosh, because it's not in our industry, but it's like, say like you're exhausted. I just need to get from New York to LA and I need to be there for something important. And then you call a friend and you say, I need help to get to LA. And your friend says, I have a 2022 Honda Civic with a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine and a 6-speed automatic transmission, and it gets 38 miles per gallon on the highway. You think that's great, but I just need to get to LA, right? So that's what happens, right? When you lead with modalities, like the modality is the car, and the clients just need to get somewhere. And what they need to know is not how the car works, as much as you love to tell them. They need to know you can get them there. And I thought that was just hilarious. So
That is.
but so, okay, so what does leading with a destination actually look like then, right? Because now we made fun of all these other things. But so it means just like stop describing what you do and start describing what becomes possible, right? So for me, again with the TCVM, but I offer other things too. But like I offer TCVM food therapy and medicinal mushroom protocols. Okay, like you say, I can say, I help dog owners whose pets are dealing with chronic inflammation and immune dysfunction understand why it's happening. And I build a food-based approach that actually addresses the root cause. I would say, think about the before and after. Give them the before and after scenario, right? So what does life look like for this person? What's keeping him up at night? And what would it look like after they work with me? What becomes possible, right? So the dog itching, I've been to 2 or 3 different vets. I've tried prescription diets. I've spent so much money, I can't afford it. They're watching their dog suffer and they're feeling helpless and guilty and like they're failing essentially this animal they love. And sometimes you do have to play on their pain points to get it across, And so afterwards, what if your dog's itching has reduced by 70%? You're sleeping through the night. You don't have to get up. Or the owner understands what drives the reaction, right, in the first place, and knows what to feed now, what to avoid. There's no more confusion. I'm not Googling at 2 a.m. They feel informed. They feel capable. They have a partner instead of feeling alone, right? That's what you're selling. Whatever you're doing to get there is not really their problem or their interest. So I know I mentioned another book, but this book is, I mentioned it in another episode, and that's This is Marketing by Seth Godin. And he makes a point that I keep thinking about, because people don't buy what you do, they buy the change they hope to experience. And I've read that again and again, and I've tried to keep that in mind when I write my sales pages, my emails. The marketer's job, or our job, which is we are marketers, right? We are connecting those two things in language that the person already understands. Back to, what are they actually saying? What words are they using? Because if you're using a different word and that's why it's so important to listen when you're in a consultation. Use their words. Don't start with, like jargon, as you were mentioning in the beginning, because then it's like already disconnected. We don't use language that requires a translation. So, that's just let's not complicate it. Let's just meet people where they're at, right? So, for instance, I always try to do that as a canine cancer prevention, practitioner. Is like, instead of opening with all my credentials and how I can help, what if I open with like, what, I lost my dog Nacho to hemangiosarcoma, and I spent, so much time learning everything that conventional veterinary nutrition wasn't telling me, and I felt really alone, like I had no support. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm doing, helping other pet parents with, right? So that it makes you become relatable, like, oh my gosh, she knows too what this is like. So I work with pet parents who are not willing to wait and see, right? So like trying to find something better, and it's not dumbing it down, it's just making it relatable. I always think about real life scenarios. I always think about that. What is a real life scenario? Not some like you were mentioning the gut microbiome protocols. Like, this really doesn't really relate to, you know what I mean? Like, and it's so, it's not to make fun, but it's just like something for people to think about, how you actually communicate what you do. And that is such an important part, because otherwise people won't purchase or book that session with you, because they just can't relate to you. But you have to be relatable, because there's millions of us out there. Well, I wouldn't say millions, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of people have options, but why would they choose you? Because you actually have stopped to listen, you hear, you speak in their language, and then you deliver, like we were saying, what would it look like, the possibilities, which they haven't seen yet.
Right. And a lot of us, like you mentioned, got into this because we have real life stories. We have real life personal experiences that got us to this place. And then of course we just took it to another level because that's who we are, right? But we're here to help pass that knowledge on to people and help guide them in a different directions. But because I saw firsthand what that did for me, I could see now what it could do for others, people and animals alike. So share those experiences with people, because that's what they're going to connect with, is you as a person, as a human, as a practitioner. But using your knowledge is also hope, because we've all been in places of despair where we're ready to just give up and throw in the towel and just say, whatever the hell, I just can't even do this anymore. We got through it.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the story that can help someone see there is another way. So I think that's what's so important with sharing and really connecting on a human level, not like, I did all these things. These are all the certifications I have, and you should be proud of them. There's no reason that you shouldn't be proud of them. But to, the average person, no offense, but they don't care. Like your story, your results is what they care about. They care about, how can you help me? How can you make my life easier? How can you make my life better? And we can do that. So share that, not, I'm certified in this. Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, because, that might make them feel a little excluded or intimidated, and it does the opposite of what you're trying to do, right? It's like to prove that you're the right person, back to what we were saying before. But when you were talking, I was like, I wish there was more training in how to communicate to all, because we all want to help more animals, right? But if we don't know how to get there, like, you have all the knowledge in the world. I am not, doubting in the least that all the people listening now that are practitioners are like incredible, like they know so much, but they just don't know how to communicate that, to translate that into someone who will say, I'm booking a session with you or a program with you. So I always say I use a test, not the elevator pitch, because that's such an old, like, cliche thing, but like I call it the coffee shop explanation. So say if you bumped into a neighbor at a coffee shop, someone who loves their dog, who is somewhat open-minded, who might actually benefit from what you do, and they asked you, so what do you do? Right? What would you say? So would I start, what would you say? Let's say, Melissa, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay. So I do work with sensitive dogs and cats, but I'm just going to pretend they have a dog. So I help anxious dogs find comfort, feel safe, and rejoin life and be able to just play and be a dog and live a fulfilled life.
That's awesome.
And what do you say?
Yeah. So like, I would say, because I start really with digestion, even though I am cancer prevention, but the cancer is like the last, step. So I don't run into people on the daily level that has someone with cancer, right? So I start with the digestion. I say something like, how a lot of dogs end up on the same food their whole lives, and then they start having all these issues like skin problems, joint pain, digestive stuff. So I work with pet parents who try to figure out what the dog's body actually needs and change what they're eating to address it. And instead of saying, I'm a certified practitioner in TCVM food therapy and clinical herbalism, I say a lot of it comes from actually really old Chinese medicine traditions, which sounds a bit out there, but it's incredibly specific and it actually works. So
That's
it's like
great.
meeting you there, like introducing the concept slightly, like how are you different from the vet, or from not the vet that I'm competing with vets, because they're needed. Obviously, I don't do the same work, but my point is, if they've tried everything, like maybe they are open to that. All the philosophy and methodology and this and that can come later once they're in the room with you, right? And they're curious and they do ask questions about that and want to understand more. Then you can introduce it. But first you need to feel seen, and they need to feel like you might be able to help them, right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So I have an exercise, and my Instagram is not is not perfect, and I am changing it too, because I just kind of I fall into the same. So we're not here saying we're perfect. We've figured it all out. Now you losers go and figure it out too. You
I
know?
have to pull up my Instagram if you're
Yeah.
going to quiz me. I'm like, what do I have on there right now?
So yeah, go look at your Instagram bio or your website homepage. You know, it could be either if you don't have Instagram, and then ask yourself 3 questions. So one, within the first 3 seconds, because honestly, with all the people are being bombarded left, right, and center today, and they click off. With the first 3 seconds of landing there, does a stranger know who you help?
So I'm going to answer yes. I don't know if you're asking me, but I'm answering
Yeah,
yes.
you
So
answer.
I do have animal communicator in my bio, which not everybody is going to know what that means. However, I have helping sensitive animals and the people who love them find understanding, support, and a way forward. So to me, I feel like, I mean, you can criticize me if be my coach.
No,
but
you are.
it's telling you that that's what I specialize in.
Yeah.
Sensitive
No,
animals and their humans.
Right. And it's not because you didn't just say, who am I? Like, I'm an animal communicator, but you also included who you help, which is really good because then people can relate. I'm that person, right? And 2, do they know what problem you solve in a language they would actually use? When you think back to your clients, are you using your clients' words in your bio or on your homepage? Or are you using your own?
These might be my own words.
So yeah, not a language you would use, a language they would use. So think about that. So what I usually do is I take snapshots of, like, sometimes I'll print out some emails I get from clients and I ask them questions like, how do you feel about this and then that? And then I print it out and I just note. And like, what are some like common threads of, you know, maybe I have 5 clients who use the same word, you know, helpless, hopeless, or whatever it is, you know, and then use that word in some of your landing pages, sales pages, things like that. So, and number 3, is there any reason there for them to believe that this is for them specifically? Remember, you're talking to one person. You're not talking to the world or anyone with a pet. So make it really, like, think about when we're doing the CTA, which we learned, you know, in many classes, right? But like, think about it. I'm talking to Sally, who's 43 years old with 2 dogs, and she's single and she's working in, you know, like, go down to the list. Are you talking to her? That's your ideal client. Not CTA, ideal client.
I will say that my content is for a specific person. You know, I'm always talking to, there is a lovely woman that interacts with every single one of my posts, and I'm talking to her. I mean, she's there all the time. She shows up, she shares. I'm talking to her. And, you know, hopefully more of her will also see that. But in my bio, I don't think my bio is talking to anybody specific, just kind of like, this is who I am. And that's Instagram.
Yeah.
And I know that is because I did that because it's limited. My website's different, where I am putting more people in that you're the hero of this story. This is the change that you can see. You know, this program is perfect if you're like this, right? Like, I have it written like that. Of course, Instagram, like I said, is, I don't even know if it's 150 characters that you get for your bio.
Yeah, something. Yeah, and you're
It's pretty little, yeah.
But you know what? That actually makes it even better because then you really have to narrow down. Like, I only have to put in the what's most important, right? So it is an exercise for you guys. Anyone listening, write down those 3 questions. Maybe we could put those in the show notes also, just to have an exercise for people, because I think I am really passionate about, you know, the only reason I'm like, I don't want to be a business coach full time, but I'm passionate about it because I want to help more animals. So the more practitioners know this stuff and they're more effectively marketing themselves, the more animals are being helped. Because I know all of you are able to help animals. It's just that you're not communicating it in a way that resonates or lands with people. I'm not saying everyone. Some of you are fantastic and do a wonderful job. That's not what I'm saying. But so I'm going to just, you know, on that tip, you know, you don't have to like do a complete rebrand, right? Not a new website or anything, just a slight language adjustment. But, you know, I think that a lot of people or practitioners are afraid of this because they feel like, oh, if they simplify their language, they're dumbing down their work. oh, I'm underselling what I know. I'm making it sound smaller than it is. I heard people say that. And that is not true, because it's not a concession to simplify your language. It's a skill. It's actually one of the hardest things you can do, to take something that is really complex and nuanced and just render it in terms that land clearly and immediately for someone who has no background in it. And I see those are the successful people. And sometimes it's like, because I hear, oh my gosh, she's like, oh, I know that already. Well, you're not the client. I'm like, I could post something on Instagram. I know Melissa knows this, but I'm like, I'm not trying to reach you in this specific instance. I mean, I'm like, I know you can help me with my animals, but I'm saying, my point is, who are you talking to? Again, you have a specific person you're talking to. So, the practitioners who can do this well are not doing less sophisticated work. They're doing more sophisticated communication, I would say, right?
And on the other side of that too, if you want to talk at a higher level, you want to put more of the science-based facts and language in there, and that is going to attract those type of people. But if you're asking yourself, why aren't people finding me? Why aren't people, resonating with my work? That could be it too, is the language is just going right over their head. They're not ready. They're not there yet. And it isn't about dumbing it down at all, because it's just simplifying it enough that it makes sense to someone that might not have any idea what we do. You can still speak and act intelligently with using simpler language to talk about what you're doing. I mean, you can talk about the problem, the end result, in a simple way, and then you can fill it in with whatever. But know that if you are running into problems, it could be because someone's like, what the hell is TCVM? I don't even know what that is, right? Like in traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, for anybody that doesn't know. So it's just about slipping out of our professional role and talking to human with people that are our ideal clients.
Yeah. So I think what we're really asking everyone to do today is to take one step back from the inside of their practice, from all the jargon and passion and certifications that got you here, and just look at what you're offering from the outside, right? From the perspective of someone who is scared about their animal companion, who doesn't have the vocabulary, who's just hoping someone out there actually understands what they're going through, because that person exists. They're everywhere. They're looking for you right now. And the only thing standing between them and your work might just be the words that you describe it. So I think if you take one thing from today's conversation, lead with the pain before the protocol, lead with the outcome before the method, and always speak to the person first, right? What do you think, Melissa? Anything else you want to add?
I really just, things shifted for me when I started putting them in the hero position of the story, which was where I really wanted them to be all along. And, sometimes we'll listen to people that have been doing something for 30, 35 years. They're leading with that because they're speaking to, I've been doing this for 35 years, where some of us don't have that. We don't have the time. So we have to lead with what we can help you with. And even those people, they might be missing a whole segment of society, because people are like, okay, you've been doing what for 30 years? I don't even know what you're doing. What are you talking about? So all of those people are looking for help. We can help them, right? Like we can just be more approachable than, and I'm not saying someone that's done something for 35 years isn't approachable. I'm just saying sometimes they forget to talk in a way that, so if you're looking up to somebody and you're modeling yourself after somebody that has been doing it for a long time, you still might need to tweak your language because they, we don't have the same following that they might have.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great point. Thank you for that. And so we'd love to hear from you on this one. We can talk about this again for hours, but we want to know, has this been something that you've struggled with in your own business? Have you found a way of describing your work that finally started to land? We'd love to hear some examples. And so come tell us over at the Whole Pack Podcast on Substack. We're also on Instagram and Facebook on Substack. And we really want to hear from you. And we hope you found this episode helpful. And we will catch you next time for more good stuff on the Whole Pack Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Before we go, we want to remind you that the information shared on the whole pack is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace veterinary medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your veterinarian before making any changes to your pet's diet, supplements, or healthcare routine. Every animal is unique, and what works for one may not be appropriate for another. We're here to empower you with knowledge, but your vet is your partner in your pet's individual care.